Well, happy Monday, everyone. Thanks for taking the time to log in this evening. I do see, I think, a new name that has logged on, which is exciting. Ashley is one of our newest ambassadors who joined us from our volunteer community. Ashley is a high school student out of the Columbus area in New Albany. So, I think she's coming off camera to say hi, but want to welcome Ashley. If I hope I didn't miss anyone else that might be new jumping on. And Diane, perfect timing. Two new faces to this monthly call. Awesome to see you both. Thank you so much for joining us and being a part of your first monthly ambassador call. Tonight, we're going to do a little bit of a debrief on our big event that we just had at the State House. I'm going to hand it over to your State Lead Ambassador, Pam, and then Vice State Lead Ambassador Vince to kind of just give a nice overview of the event, some winning points and great successes that we had. If you were part of the committee for our Cancer Action Day, we'll have an official debrief next Monday. But I did at least want to allow for this group, for Pam and Vince to say a few words to kick us off. And then we will hand it over to Leo. I think it'll flow nicely after we talk about Cancer Action Day to kind of cover a lot that's been happening in the last month when it comes to our legislative issues. And then we're really going to do a deep dive into fundraising. So now that we're post Cancer Action Day, I think a lot of things will start to move and shake for us as we prep for Washington, D.C. in September for Leadership Summit and Lobby Day and our Lights of Hope efforts. But also the policy forum will be on our horizon in the fall. So we'll kind of do a little bit of fundraising talk as well. But Pam, I'm going to hand it over to you first to talk a little bit about the things that you saw as big successes from our Cancer Action Day and any key points that you want to share with the group.
All righty. Hi, everyone. It's me, Pam Neese. Thank you all for coming to Cancer Action Day. It was great. It was nice seeing as many people as we had, and I believe it was like close to 80. I loved it. It was so empowering, and it got my juices flowing again, and I just loved it. I had good information about everybody liked the little ribbon things that we made to put on our badges. The big ribbon poster that Christy made was awesome. And just everybody milling around and talking to everybody. That was really a really good feeling. And of course, you know, y'all were naked during my speech, so I tried to speak without my eyes closed. So it was just a real good feeling. I had a great time. Vince, you have anything?
I do. I know it's already been said, but first and foremost, I'd really like to thank the committee that we had working on this. It's something that I don't think can be said too often. I feel as though we were really well prepared, even with a few last minute modifications that the legislators decide to throw at us. I'm going to reiterate Pam's statement about having almost 80 people there. Never having done Cancer Action Day prior to the pandemic, my first experience live was 35 or 37 people last year. And to see an entire room and completely filled up with people was fantastic. Even better were the number of first timers that we had that were there. And I think a part of that is just getting a little farther from COVID, but also just, Sarah, thank you to you reaching out to all the ACS staffers and everyone associated with Pan Ohio. Met some fantastic people that I had heard about or met virtually with ACS, but the collaboration between the two groups was fantastic. And the last thing, I don't even know, I assume I would credit Leo and Michelle Zimmer with this, but some of the media coverage that we had, getting the word out to the Columbus community, which has inspired me. Next year, I need to make sure Northeast Ohio is represented like the Columbus area so that more Ohioans know what we're doing when we're in Columbus. So those are the big things. And obviously, those of you in Cincinnati, I encourage you to do the same thing. Those of you in Dayton, any major news area, please let them know that what we're doing in Columbus, because it's for everybody in the state, not just specific areas. So I'll go back to you, Sarah.
Yeah, no, thank you. For those that maybe didn't see it in the chat, I wanted to reiterate what you said, Vince, about first-time attendees. Of the 80 that we had in the room, 34 were brand new to attending a Cancer Action Day. And I can't thank the mentors enough, in addition to our committee and all of you, because not once did I hear from any first-timer that they felt unprepared, or that they didn't know the information or didn't feel supported. And I just can't thank all of you enough for those efforts, because I know that that takes a lot of time to reach out and try to connect with all of your mentees, prep them on what our legislative issues are. And so I really wanted to highlight that, that you mentioned, Vince. And Pam, to your point, one thing I also want to reiterate is just the activities and the energy in the room, making things special and memorable by allowing us to represent certain types of cancers by our name tags, remembering those that we're honoring, and that we've lost, why carrying them with us through the day, through that activity that you made, Christy, with the cancer ribbon. I just think those small little things shouldn't go unnoticed. And so thank you to all of you for, one, bringing the energy, participating, and us really having a huge success of a day. So I just thank all of you for that and look forward already to next year. I joked, but in all seriousness, I think we'll need the ballroom next year. Let's just keep striving, to get 80. Let's get to 100 again, which I know is the biggest we've ever seen, for Ohio. And thanks to all of you for your connections and recruiting. And like you said, Leo, our ACS staff also coming together to help be there and bring attendees as well. So it is a joint effort, and I think we'll just continue to grow and build on the experience. So thank you all. With that, Leo, like Vince said, we had some things that were thrown at us from a legislative perspective last minute that we had to pivot and prepare for. But I know there's a lot of other things that have been happening behind the scenes that you've been working on with our lawmakers on our various issues. So I do want to give you some time to share with the group where we are and what might be to come.
Great. Thanks, Sarah. Well, yeah, Cancer Action Day was great. We had, over 50 meetings with legislators and staff, which is really amazing. If you weren't there and you want some additional context, no one was naked. That's just how Pam came to the podium, prepared to address everyone at the very beginning of the program. But yeah, overall, everyone did a great job. I really appreciate everyone's flexibility going into the day with getting news overnight that our funding for tobacco control and cessation had been cut significantly. It's always hard to pivot, right, when you don't have a whole lot of information. Honestly, I didn't think I was going to get the sub bill until that morning. I thought I was going to kind of be held up in the corner of the room on my laptop trying to dig through it while you all were getting ready for the day. So it was kind of nice to have it come in overnight, even though it meant I was up till I think like 12:30 just trying to read through it all. But we, during our meetings made it clear that we were unhappy about this change. Right now, I would say that 5 to 10% chance that the budget is going to pass the House tomorrow, but like a 90% chance that the budget will pass the House on Wednesday. So at this point, we are hoping to see the House change their mind on this. Basically, the process is sometime during committee on Tuesday or Wednesday, they will accept what's called the omnibus amendment. It's called that because it involves multiple things. It's not just one topic. Typically, amendments, you have to introduce one per topic. An omnibus is a collection of amendments, if you will. Rep. Carruthers. She's the chair of Health and Human Services Subcommittee for Finance. She has a good relationship with the American Heart Association. So my counterpart there had her draft an amendment to restore our funding for tobacco control. So we are hoping that she can get that in. She is prepared to make that ask. She has our talking points on why it needs to be restored. It's a long shot, though, to get that kind of money restored. Usually the omnibus is for those last minute things that they just couldn't get hashed out in the sub bill, or things that are specific for a district that the speaker is trying to get the vote from that member in order to have enough votes to pass the budget. So he'll throw something their way to get their vote. A good example of this is, let's say he needs Democrats to vote for it. He'll throw some money towards some kind of Cleveland project to pick up a lot of the Democrats in Cleveland. Not saying that that's what's going to happen. That's just an example. So we'll see the budget pass the House Wednesday. If they can't figure it out, they might come on Thursday, but I heard that they're not coming on Thursday. The Senate has started their unofficial hearings on the budget. It's kind of a parade of every agency director that has to come through. So they do those over the first couple weeks, and then they'll open it up to public testimony. So that's when I'll go in. Hopefully by then we'll have some kind of clear sign that the funding's going to be restored. If not, I'll obviously be hitting it hard during my testimony to explain why that funding is needed. And then, of course, BCCP has been held harmless, right? That money's still there, so we're happy about that. Any questions about the budget process or things that you might have heard during Cancer Action Day?
Bob Hackett said in his meeting with Tom and Tracy that he would get it restored.
I saw that in my notes. Also saw in my notes that he didn't know what the biomarker bill was, which I'm questioning because he is supposed to be working on that at NCOIL, which is the national, I'm not going to even try, but it's like the national group of legislators that work on insurance issues. And he told me that he was supportive of the model legislation that they're planning to endorse at NCOIL for biomarker testing, which is ours. It's what we submitted. So I'm a little concerned that he said he didn't know anything about that. I think I saw Jody.
Jody's got a hand up. Jody Carr.
Hi, yeah. Is there anything that we should be doing then as far, we had meetings. Is that the end of the line? Should we be sending emails? Should we getting other, voters in our districts to send emails? What's the next step if we have any options?
Yeah, so you will be seeing an action alert from us later this week to tell you exactly what to do. Sarah and I talked about it today. We'll probably do emails and calls this first round, and then in about 2 weeks, we'll probably turn to social media. And again, kind of just breaking it up in case we get, some good intel about how things are going in the Senate. And we'll just stay on top of it. It's kind of a bit of a sprint now to the finish line because, once the House gets done, the Senate has to work through it. Everything has to be set, or is supposed to be said and done by June. Are there 30 or 31 days in June? The last day of June. And it goes into effect July 1st. So the governor will sign it sometime that night before he goes home. That's typically what happens. They actually try to get it done earlier in the day on that last day because they have a big event called what's it called? it's been a while since I've gone. Rockin' Fiscal Eve, that they all like to go to, and the governor usually stops by, that kind of thing. However, you know, there could potentially be issues that come up that delay it. The last 2 weeks of June, they'll have what's called a conference committee, and that's where the House finance leaders and the Senate leaders on both sides of the aisle will form a committee and hash out all the final details, make all the final deals, and then whatever version of the budget they pass is what will end up going to the governor.
Good to know. Thank you.
Anyone else with questions or comments?
Anything, Leo, to share about biomarker or copay? I know a lot of, like you said, kind of a sprint right now on our budget priorities for all of May, just because of the timing going into June. But is there anything you'd add about our two legislation?
Yeah, so both of them have been drafted as a budget amendment. So they're on the list for potentially being in the omnibus. It's very unlikely, more unlikely than us getting our tobacco funding back. It's kind of a Hail Mary just to, you know, say we did it kind of thing. What is nice is that it forces more members to talk about those issues, especially for biomarkers, because right now it's been so heavily focused on the insurance committee and not so much the rest of the membership, other than, of course, you know, us going in and meeting with everyone last Tuesday. So it's kind of just good touch points for folks to be talking about it, but very unlikely that we'll see it in the budget. I'm meeting with 4 members that we didn't get to meet with during Cancer Action Day, that are on insurance. I'm meeting with them tomorrow and Wednesday. One of which is Rep. Patton. He's from the Cleveland area. I think someone stopped and asked him for directions in the hallway.
That was me. He was so
Okay.
nice. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, I'm so glad.
Yeah, so I'll be meeting with him. I've known him for years because he was in the Senate when I worked in the Senate. So I've known him for a long time. He seems to be supportive. Even the questions he asked during committee made me think that he's supportive, but we kind of just want to firm that up and make sure that he is, or if he's on the fence because he has, you know, some concern, that we address that concern and get him on our side. Peterson, Dobos, and Gunbari are the other 3 that I'm meeting with the next 2 days, and I just have no idea where they are, to be honest. So this is gonna kind of be my first indication of where they might be.
Leo, I've
Mhm.
had Senator Patton at one of the relays that I do.
Mhm.
Rep Patton now.
Yeah.
And last year, and he seemed, when I talked to him about it, seemed very receptive to it and sounded
Mhm.
like he was going to support it. So that should
Yeah.
be a good meeting.
Yeah, I think so too. And then copay, I think what's going to happen is after all attempts are made to get it into the budget, that we'll probably see some kind of reintroduction of a standalone bill. I know that Rep. Manchester would prefer to wait until she has someone in the Senate that can introduce a Senate version or a companion bill at the same time. But I've heard that she's not had any luck firming up a Republican sponsor in the Senate. So we'll be touching base with her and kind of seeing what the next steps are.
Any questions for Leo? That's a lot of info, I know. And again, we've been working on a lot going into Cancer Action Day. So thanks, Leo.
And I'm delivering all of your thank you cards tomorrow. So if you see me here sorting through cards, that's what I'm doing.
Awesome. Much appreciated. And yes, thanks. We had a huge basket full, so I know that that will be great for all of the staff and lawmakers to see. Very quick for federal, because I don't have a ton. Hopefully you did see some of this in the last Friday email, but there has been some introduction in the House for 2 of our federal um, legislative focuses this year, the prostate specific antigen screening, so PSA screening for him, and our multi-cancer early detection screening coverage. Those have both been introduced to the House, and it's expected that they'll be introduced before Memorial Day in the Senate. So we should see a lot of movement going into May as well on some of our federal work. So please just know that as I get that from our federal team on what those next steps are, I will make sure to highlight those in our Friday emails and lean on all of you for efforts there as well. So kind of starting to see that side of the house as well pick up in addition to our state updates and issues. So more to come, hopefully. Just stay in close watch in the Friday emails. So the big topic we really wanted to kind of focus in on tonight, in addition to our state and federal updates, is diving a bit deeper into our topic of what's to come for fundraising. Both Leo and I, will now shift into preparing for our 2 fall events, and that's Leadership Summit and Lobby Day in DC, and then our policy forum. Leo, do you want to share the date for policy forum with everyone so they can mark it on their calendars, if you don't mind?
Yeah, so it will be September 18th, or sorry,
October.
October 18th. And it'll be sometime in the morning. We haven't quite figured out the time, but usually we try to be done by noon so we don't have to feed any of the members.
Thanks. So October 18, and we'll start putting that in our Friday updates as well. But the big thing I wanted to be able to hand it over to Pam and Vince again for a little bit is talking through a timely fundraiser that we kicked off for the first time here in Ohio, and that's a t-shirt store that we all had talked about a couple months ago, and just ecstatic to see that it's up and running and something that we can really focus in on. So Pam, if you want to share a little bit about that, and then also Lights of Hope, and just giving a little overview of I can share that we have 20 individuals that have made pages for Lights of Hope, but now will be that time where we shift to really actually start actively fundraising and pushing out our pages. I believe 9 of those 20 have so far received some kind of donation to their page. But Pam, do you want to cover a little bit about just some thoughts you have on the t-shirt sale and kicking us off for Lights of Hope season?
Sure. Can you pull up the t-shirt ad?
I can. Yeah, and I'll put it in the chat too.
Yes.
But I can absolutely share my screen.
The t-shirts are pretty cool. It says, well, you'll see. But they are now long sleeve. We have a choice of long sleeve and short sleeve. They're like a royal blue, if I could say royal blue. They're not the baby blue. It has our new logo on it. And it also has a saying on it that Barb came up with. And can you, yes.
Your story can make a difference in the fight against cancer.
So they're 21 and 25 for the regular sizes. I believe they may go up for the bigger sizes. But wouldn't it be wonderful to get together and everybody have one of these shirts, like at fall at LSLD or our fall meeting or whatever. So I encourage everyone, buy a shirt. This goes to our American Cancer Society Cancer Action Network group. And I think it's a pretty cool way to do that. I love that it has advocate on it now and not just the logo. Of course, there is it on our SharePoint site?
The flyer, yes, and I emailed it.
Yes, the flower. Yep. So we will close the store around May 7th, which is on a Sunday. So get your orders in. And I think what they say, about 3 or 4 weeks after closure, they'll have the item sent.
Yep, 2 to 3 is what they had
Oh, 2 to
mentioned.
3. Okay,
Yeah.
perfect.
So I'll just add that depending on how many of the shirts we sell, we'll get about $5 back per piece, which is really awesome, and it does help towards our Ohio goal that we're striving for, which for grassroots is 57,000. I will add that Leo's sponsorship goal for the policy forum is 37,000. So it is all of us coming together. I think this is a unique, fun way, especially with the logo change, that we can all get a new piece to wear, but share it out to your friends. I know I've heard a lot of our ACS staff and colleagues who have said, and I know, being that I was ACS staff previously, we don't have a lot of ACS can logoed items. So they're excited to be able to support us and get a shirt too. Because it isn't as common that we've seen mass production of anything. But I think really just leaning on, so if you have Relay for Life or Making Strides Against Breast Cancer or golf, gala connections to our ACS events as well, that it's appropriate to share that out, because we are a team, and we do come together, supporting both ACS and ACS CAN efforts. So definitely, only having a little over not quite 2 weeks left of the store. You'll see a Facebook post that's going to go out on our page that you can share, but Pam also mentioned the flyer. So feel free to use that, share on the social media channels that you have, the post that we will put out. And we are drafting an email as well to try to send to all of our advocates so they know that we are focusing in on the store and it helping benefit our fundraising efforts. Any questions about the t-shirt? Really excited about it, like Pam said.
I just ordered mine.
Yay. Fantastic.
So
Yeah, it looks
will
good.
they go out for delivery after the store closes?
Yes,
Is that the
2
way
to
it
3
works?
weeks. Yeah, we'll get them in hand. After May 7th, when they close, they'll start to produce and ship to us.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you are partnering with events, that's why I brought up ACS events. That's prime time when all of our relays, Pride will be in June. We'll have a lot of things coming that we'll be able to really rock these shirts across the state. So I definitely encourage you to share it out, purchase your own, and help jumpstart our fundraising efforts. So then Lights of Hope. Pam, do you want to give kind of just your personal things you've learned over the years, or what's your first step of encouragement for beginning your Lights of Hope efforts?
First things first, you got to have a page. Please sign up for a page. I think we've got 20 pages. We need a lot more. I know that my biggest angst, I guess, is just asking. You just have to ask. You may get no's, but most probably you're going to get yeses. I have a campground that I belong to, permanent spot, and my campground always helps me out, and I get quite a few Lights of Hope, and I put a Lights of Hope program on for them, as well as taking some of their bags to DC. So it is a really good fundraiser for us. So I know Vince is biting at the bit. He wants to talk about his fundraiser. This is his baby. Go for it.
I don't know if this is my baby or not. I'm not like Julie or Barb that put the fun in fundraiser with all the different creative things that they do. But I will reiterate what Sarah and Pam said, which is, one, you have to create your site. The nice thing on the site is you can really individualize it. You can put your own story in there. You can add photos to it. So it really, obviously, that's the first step. The other nice thing in Donor Drive this year is you can create milestones. And what I really like about that is if you're using social media to promote your event or just the fact that you're raising money, you can then put the message out that you've hit a certain level. So that just gives you another reason to make contact with people. One big thing that I always like to tell people is there are people that raise more money than others, but it doesn't matter how much you raise, whether it's $10, $100, $1,000. Every donation makes a difference, and it doesn't, just because you don't get as much as somebody else doesn't mean that you're not contributing a big part to our fundraising goal, which, by the way, this year, because of our success last year, is $57,000. So it really, it doesn't, like I said, it doesn't matter how much you do raise, but every contribution does make a big difference towards making our goal. The simple math, because I'm a simple-minded person, if every person at Cancer Action Day would create a page and raise just $10, obviously that's $800. If every person at Cancer Action Day makes a page and raises $50, we're up to $4,000. There are other people that are going to have more success than $50, which is fantastic. Some people may struggle to get to that just because they're, like Pam was saying, they're uncomfortable asking. But it all will balance out. There are people that will raise more money and will be able to get closer to our goal. The other big thing for initial fundraising, you don't have to go out and reach every person in your community. Your close family or friends all know your story, who you're working with ACS Camp for. Reach out to them, because I'm sure that they would be willing to get a bag for $10 to support you if you're a survivor, if you're a thriver, or if you're a caregiver. Those people close to you would love to support you, and that's the easiest way to kick off your fundraising. If you're so inclined, you can also start working towards sponsorships. I think Julie you'll nod your head if I have this right. I think, Julie, you have 2 sponsorships so far, or more than that? 2, okay. I just got notice today of my second sponsor, and I have commitments from 4 other people that they will sponsor. I don't know exactly how much they're sponsoring yet, but sponsors can come from any part of your life. My initial sponsor was a business contact that I work with up in Cleveland. The one I was informed of today, which some may find unusual, but it was the funeral home that worked with us for Betsy's funeral. They sponsored today. I've also received commitments from the insurance company that I work with for my home and auto insurance. Received a commitment from a landscape company that I know. So you can get it from a number of different areas. There's an electrician I've done a lot of things with, and I'm not sure that everybody has an electrician that they're friends with that has a business, but I'm sure everybody has some acquaintance with someone that there's a business relationship with that would consider sponsoring. You just have to kind of take the blinders off and expand your mind a little bit with regard to who could be potential sponsors. And these sponsors that I'm mentioning are new this year for my event. So the next step is for me to reach back out to the people that have sponsored in previous years. You shouldn't assume that people, whether it be family, friends, or people that have sponsored previously, that they're going to do it again. I'm sure they will, but you need to let them know you're having another campaign this year. And the other way that you can get either these sponsors, family, or friends involved is to have your own local Lights of Hope event. Pick a day sometime before early September. Doesn't have to be any specific day, but it's always a good thing to have a target to reach towards, where people that do have bags that they've donated get to see them actually displayed. If they're displayed and you have photos before September 7th, or I think up until midnight of September 7th, whether you're going to Leadership Summit Lobby Day or not, you can submit those through the website. If you have 2 bags, 10 bags, 1,000 bags, it doesn't really matter. Every display can be unique, and every display is special because of who it's celebrating or honoring. And it just, anyone that donated, it's just a nice way to connect their donation with what we're trying to accomplish. See if there was anything else. I think I've covered a lot of things in a little bit of time.
Hey, Vince.
Yes.
Something that I do every year that might be helpful to other people is I make this little circle. I used to do it with Relay for Life, and the folks that I know will support me are in this first circle. That's family and friends, and then I go to the second circle, and I have neighbors and last year's donors, and I have a Bob Ross Auto Group this year that I'm going to reach out to as a new donor. Springfield Cancer Center, social media. And then, of course, even farther, I have relay events, Stride events, PSA Airlines, First Friday events in my little town. And this is just like a visual reminder to myself. And then when I've done that, I kind of just tick it off. And I have a copy of it in my office so that I always remember to get active with Lights of Hope. So it might be something that somebody else might like to have. Sarah, I can put this on our
Great
Google
idea.
Drive.
That'd be
Yeah?
great.
Okay.
You have the
Yeah, it's
template?
really helpful. And anybody that's done relay has already seen this, right? Right, Barb? Right, Pam?
Connection circle. It's so true. And
Yes.
I will add, I know that there were some comments in the chat, as a staffer previously, of a large ACS event, I know many of you have partnered with, my event, Pan Ohio is just one example. Look through the list of all of our ACS events again, that I know I had sent out and is on the Google Drive. I can re-add that to this Friday's upcoming email as well, and connect with the staff and the lead volunteers and ask them if you can have a presence in some way. You'd be really surprised that, again, we've had so much pleasant, encouraging support from our ACS peers that they do want us to have both representation of ACS and ACS Can at our events, and participants that are doing our ACS events want to honor and remember their loved ones in multiple ways. I know that as someone that's for years bought bags from Julie, as a relayer. Initially, having Luminaria at Relay for Life, it was a no-brainer for me that I would give an additional $10 to have my name displayed at DC. That's been an honor for many, many years to know that Julie's honored me in my cancer journey through those bags. And so I do know that a lot of our ACS events are very eager and willing to participate with us if you just ask. And so relook at that list find ways that would work if it's not the day of the event. Pam Mangus brought up a really great point in the chat that it could maybe be at a meeting or at a wrap-up event. So just you have to simply ask is the very first thing that I would reiterate from what Pam and Vince mentioned. And I think, a lot of us have been fundraising for many, many years, and some of us will be newer. What I have learned over the years is that it really is about people just wanting to honor and remember their loved ones. So don't feel the pressure of whenever you do start a page and start getting donations and you have to think about what your display will look like come September. It doesn't have to be anything massive and elaborate or a full-blown event with drinks and food, and as long as the names are displayed, people again appreciate being able to remember and honor their loved one. And so I know many of you over the years have added very special moments and elaborated on what your displays look like. But for any of you that are newer, um, please lean on us and ask questions about how you can get started, where you should go to ask for donations. I do think events and tabling are a great spot. Christy, I love that you put in the chat. You've got your kids are in high school and they're connected to wanting to help make your display and doing the photos. And I do think that there's a lot of creative ways that wherever you are in your stage of life, Julie, I'm going to call this out. Your granddaughter's gotten older, the last couple of years. This year, you brought in Abby to help you record a video to ask for people to give. As a mom of a 2-year-old, I post pictures of Willie all the time asking for things that I'm doing for ACS because it shows that connection of your family and them supporting you in your efforts too. And who's going to say no to a child? So use all the levels of your connection and get creative. And I just really appreciate all of you for your willingness to create a page if you haven't to help us strive to exceeding our $57,000 goal. And all coming together. Last year, for those of you that are newer, because I know we do have a couple new faces, we were the second top fundraising state in the country last year. Ohio, the number 2 state. That's incredible. And I know that we'll continue to keep soaring and showing our passion. So thank you, and definitely lean on us as a team if you have questions. I did want to shout out, Vince, you already did, the efforts of starting sponsorship too. If you have any questions about the sponsorship packet that's in our Google Drive or that's been sent out, let me know. There are really great flexible levels from small 350 family sponsorship all the way up to thousands. So I think that there is a lot of opportunity to connect with small businesses and large businesses to ask them if they want to purchase bags and sponsor your efforts. I will also highlight one last thing, and that's that if people want to go and connect together for your displays, talk as a team. I know Jody and I have very briefly talked about how she and Alik may come together to have a bigger representation of Cincinnati in one display. Julie and Tom, I believe, have done something like that in the past here in the Miami Valley, Dayton area. I do think that there is a lot of flexibility in how creative you want to be with your displays come September. So talk to each other, lean on each other, and that's what these monthly calls moving forward will be about. We will definitely take time to highlight our Lights of Hope efforts and where we are with that fundraising and sponsorship. So are there any questions that we can answer right off the bat? I
Hey,
know that's a
Sarah,
lot of info.
This
just
is me.
two quick things. The circles that Julie shared, political candidates use that. That's how successful that method is. A lot of people, a lot of different groups have claimed that to be theirs, but I've seen a million versions of it. The version I used when I was helping candidates fundraise was from Emily's List. If you've never heard of Emily's List, Emily is an acronym. It stands for, let's see, early money is like yeast, right? Because it raises more money. So think of it that way, right? The earlier you get started, the more likely you're going to raise. And then if you are new to fundraising, even if you're not new to fundraising, I feel like a lot of people forget the number one rule of fundraising. So let's say Julie and I are talking, and I'm going to ask Julie to be a sponsor of My Lights of Hope for $1,000. And I say, Julie, will you give me $1,000 as a sponsor for Lights of Hope? What's the next thing I should do after I say that? Absolutely nothing.
Please,
Don't say
please,
anything.
beg.
If you make an ask of someone, stop talking and let them respond. I can't tell you how many times I've seen political candidates say, "Will you give me $5,000 for my race?" But if you can't do 5,000, you can do 4,000. What are you doing? Don't do that, right? Get the 5,000. So, if you are making that ask, don't say anything. Let them respond. And if it's a no, take the no and say that, I hope you could reconsider, or, maybe you can do a lesser amount. Or if it just doesn't seem like it's gonna go anywhere, just end it there, kind of thank them for even considering it.
Leo, sometimes too, I'll say if they can't, I'll say, okay, basically, is it okay if I contact you next year when I'm going through, this fundraising activity again, or somehow make it so that you're leaving that open-ended in a
Yep.
sense to say, you're kind of like giving them a heads up. Hey, I'm going to call you when the next time I do some fundraising. And
Yeah, never close the door.
Yeah, and they'll usually be like, yeah, sure, which really they may not want you to, but at least you have the right to go back in. So, or, you're comfortable doing that. So.
Another thing from what Julie said, in the real estate world, they call that the circle of influence. So there's primary, secondary, and tertiary circles. But one thing Julie said, and this can be very simple, is your neighbors. You can do something as simple as make a sign saying, I'm raising money for Lights of Hope. Would you like to donate? And print a QR code, which she already has on there. You can put it on in your front yard. So as people, especially now that spring's coming and the warm weather will arrive in Ohio in about July, people will be out walking and will be passing by your house. I don't know that anybody leaves their house without their phone at this point. Make it very simple as they're walking past, or even stop in and ask me what Lights of Hope is. It's obviously it require some active fundraising, but things like that are passive that can make it very simple for you to get $10.
And what I'll add is it is so easy now to make QR codes. So I just have Barb's page pulled up as a quick example. If you right click now on any page, one of the prompts is create a QR page for this page. And you can literally download this and put it anywhere. I do want to highlight Pam Neese, I saw your business cards at Cancer Action Day. You had a QR code on the back of your business card. You can put it on a flyer like Julie just showed, but truly it is that simple. When you are on your page, just right click and then download the QR code that is prompted there when you click create a QR code for this page. There's so much flexibility now.
I can't tell you how much time I wasted at Relay for Life events and Strides events until I got smart and had this and just started handing them out. I carry a supply of these in my car. And I can hand out 45 of them in the time that I talked about what Lights of Hope were years ago.
It's so important. And I think the best thing, again, to go back on is that sadly, everyone in some ways been affected by cancer. They can give you at least one name, an honor, or a memory that they would want displayed on one of these very sentimental bags. And again, don't feel pressure to have to overcommit to what your display might look like or over decorate. Again, it really is about honoring and remembering so many people that we know have sadly been touched by cancer and supporting our advocacy efforts through ACS Can. So If you need any help creating or drafting a flyer, all of the resources are on our Google Drive. And there is a website that I know I've been linking in our Friday emails at the top general resources section that has all of the Lights of Hope flyers, sponsorship packet. There are even tutorial videos that you can watch that the national team has made for us on how to navigate through Donor Drive. Um, but really, please lean on us if you have questions. And I know that, again, starting in May, we will really start focusing on where we are to goal, what activities we're working on, and how as a team we can support each other, again, to achieve and exceed our $57,000 goal. Um, any questions about Lights of Hope or the t-shirt store were the two big things we wanted to focus in on?
Are we still talking about a state display in the Capitol?
Good question. So I have talked to leadership about that. If that's something we wanted to do, the biggest thing we need to think about and remember is that we don't want to spend money to do a display necessarily when we're trying to raise money. And I think we could very much so get creative on where, if we feel like we have connections to where they wouldn't charge us to do a display of that size. So I definitely would like to hear from you all out in the field and at the grassroots level. I know we had talked about maybe at the Capitol, but that's going to come with a permit and an application that we're going to have to fill out. And I would just, encourage us to think outside of the box on, again, not putting anything towards our expense budget on wanting to do a statewide display. Instead, maybe we do focus in on each of our major communities if you're wanting to do larger displays across the major markets, kind of coming together. Or if you have a really good connection, again, or idea of somewhere we could centrally located do one display, but not spend necessarily the funds, I would love to hear your ideas. But I do know the State House would require, looking further into it, a permit, an application, and have some cost associated to be able to do that. So we need to keep that in mind. So think on it. If you have ideas, let me know.
And Sarah, when would we, if we did this, when would it be? Would it be in August? So that way we can be included in like the pictures for Leadership Summit and Lobby Day?
Yeah, I think that's a really great point and question. If we were going to have that many bags, which we know we will have, and that's such a great thing to showcase, I would love for it to be able to be before the September 7th deadline to submit a photo. So wherever we were in our efforts at that point, we could collectively do a display of the bags that we have so far had donated.
I was having a chat with Christy in the chat box. And I just wanted to also let her know that sometimes the relays will allow you to do memberships, but not necessarily want you to sell Lights of Hope. So if you want that person to know about the Lights of Hope, if you have a member, if you recruit a member, then you can let them know there is such a thing. And you can grab a dedication from them and let them know you'll create a bag for them. So that often will work too. And once you have a bag for them, if you send them a photo afterwards or whatever, that might get that person to come back and back and back to get more Lights of Hope from you. And another suggestion is, besides ACS events, if you have any pride festivals in your area or any other type of community event, they're not going to stop you from, at least that, and we have to ask it sometimes still, but I don't believe they will stop you from selling Lights of Hope. They might stop you from having petitions signed, but we don't actually do a lot of that anymore.
Just an aside on the relays, the two relays that I work with, I do sell Lights of Hope. I do have permission from both of them to do it. And so that's how I do it as a membership drive, because they want to try and get to the CAN event with 40 CAN members. And so what I do, and it's a little work out of my pocket, but I provide like a pizza party or a Taco Tuesday or something where the members can, the committee people can eat, but to eat, you have to buy at least one light of hope. So that's a
Very
way to
creative.
do it, because that gets people to their meetings for them, because there's going to be free food. So they're usually
Very
pretty
good.
good about it.
Yeah, especially coming out of the pandemic, knowing that getting back to in person was maybe a struggle for some meetings, for some events. That's a really creative and great idea, Barb, to partner with them to try to help them get more people at their meetings and support both efforts. All fantastic suggestions. Well, I'll just, to close us out, again, thank all of you. If you have questions about creating a page, if you haven't and would like to, please reach out. Again, all of the resources are in our Friday emails, but I'm happy to help walk you through any of those steps. We will also start to prep for Leadership Summit and Lobby Day and talk through in around the June timeframe. I should know from nationals more about the plans for that event. And as far as attendance and travel and budget information. So more to come. But appreciate all of you and your efforts coming out of Cancer Action Day to help us pivot and prep for really the second half of the year, already thinking ahead, being our federal priorities and our fundraising. So keep in touch if you have questions. I really appreciate everyone. Any last thoughts or questions from anyone before we sign out? Pam?
It's Pam again. I have a question. Vince mentioned 57,000 as our goal. Is that our Lights of Hope goal or our entire state goal?
Yeah, great point. That's our entire state
Okay.
fundraising goal. So all efforts.
That makes me feel better.
All
Well,
efforts,
not the policy
including,
forum.
yeah, not the policy forum,
Yeah.
all grassroots efforts.
Yeah.
And then in addition to that 57,000, we have the 37,000 for the policy forum. Great clarifying question, Pam. So if you're planning a separate event, I know Julie logging in was talking about her Cancer is a Drag. Barb and I know have been emailing back to really push her Laughter Can Cure event in the fall. Any side events that you're also planning will go towards that 57,000 goal. Well, thank you all so much. I hope you have an awesome rest of your Monday evening. It was so good to get to see all of you in person at Cancer Action Day. I appreciate you taking time to log in, and we'll see you again in May.
Yeah. Thanks, Sarah. Bye, everybody.
Keep in touch. Bye, everyone.
Bye. See ya.
Hello, goodbye.